welcome to another episode of Mitchell's Logistics Corner, where we bring you real-time information of what's going on in today's logistics market. Hey guys, just a quick hop on here to let you know that I'm so excited to announce that I've actually gotten onto a show by the name of H2O with Mr. Mario Brundle, and we will be speaking every week live streams and to be discussing 2 to 3 questions of what the current conditions are in today's logistics market. All raw footage, no censoring, no filters. Hopefully to see you there. Here is our first little taste, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, Mario, how's it going?
I'm doing wonderful. Actually calling from Germany today. So back in my home country, visiting my family.
How's it going? How is Germany?
Oh, it's wonderful. Couple Christmas markets we hit yesterday, so it's really nice.
What time is it over there?
Back for 2 years. So
yeah, what time is it over there?
It's 10 o'clock at night right now. So.
Oh, well, thanks for staying up. All right. So obviously this platform was something that you and I discussed. We figured it would be a great platform to build out, for a lot of our audiences to kind of get a better idea of what's going on in today's logistics industry. Right. So I think this is more of a laid back conversation. And the whole point of this is to answer 3 questions with a limit of 10 minutes per question. And then we could both discuss what we believe is right or wrong, or what our beliefs are with that topic. Yeah. So let's start with let's start with the first topic, which to me is a really important topic, right? Which that's going to be tech versus non-tech. Okay, let's go 10 minutes. There we go. So my view on technology and logistics, Mario, I think it's complete hogwash. I think that technology is hurting us. I think there's just so much different technology out there. Let me rephrase this. There is so much technology out there that it's confusing, that it's harming us. And the technology, I personally believe, is not only harming us, but it's not giving our shippers real information, right? So a lot of the information, I believe, is that we get from a steamship line or something off the internet where the system, has sort of a CAT scan, gets you the information and gives you an update, right? So technology, I don't know whether it's customer service. I just think the technology is really, for me in logistics, is for companies to come in. And it's an easy way for them to get in and think that, hey, just because I have a technology after my name or we're a technology-based company, we know logistics. I think it's wrong. And that's why I think that logistics is being destroyed by these tech companies. What do you think?
For me, technology I think is a necessary evil, right? And I agree with you. There's way too many tech companies out there, and there's way too many softwares that people use. So what I really would love to see more is technology combining, right? So let's say you have an intra, for example, right? A lot of people are using that to submit bill of lading instructions and other stuff, right? But I really miss like a one-stop shop, right? One software that does everything. That's the stuff that I would love to see. And we are obviously, using some of the technology and kind of combining them ourselves, right? So, but I think that's what I would really like to see. But I think technology is needed to compete. And I think technology is really needed to scale, especially when you're a medium to small freight forwarder. I think it's crucial for you to actually make money. You got to have it.
But what's the technology? Like, what is it that's so special? Like, I see, for example, let's just talk about what's currently in the market. I see, for example, the platform that Seco is on. They're very good into e-commerce. They have, I think, their Code Red or Red platform. That's their technology, right? Their e-commerce, that's what direction they're going in. BDP, before they got, sold to PSA, they had this BDP land where they could go in and you could have kind of information. But what is it that these companies, let's go into these companies, and those are forwarders. Those are like real-time forwarders. What about the companies that are claiming that are forwarders, but are not really forwarders, that the technology is coming in? And regardless of service or knowledge, it's a question of black and white numbers. Okay? And I'll be the first to say it, Mario. Flexport, I hear it all the time. All the time.
You're absolutely right. I mean, they claim they have this great software and it does it all automated, yada, yada, yada. And at the end of the day, there's people in the background doing the data entry, exactly how we do it, right? I think that there's a huge need for a really good forwarder that has really good tools. And I think they should make it open source so other freight forwarder can use it and make it better. My problem that I have with all these companies is that most of the time they're not designed by logistics guys. So people think it's going to be really nice software, right? And they're going to think they're going to use it, right? It's almost like, building a bookkeeping software like QuickBooks, right? It's actually built by actual bookkeepers and CFOs, And I think that's the same problem in the logistics field, that you have all these people that are designing these softwares that don't know the difference between a 20-foot and a 40-foot container.
Okay. And okay, I agree. So let me ask you this. You brought this up, and it's a very good thing to bring up. You do have a lot of similarities to a Flexport, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about this on our last one where you said, hey, this is the difference is, you have the experience and the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So you also mentioned that you could help mid to small size forwarders.
Yeah.
So that confuses me.
Yeah. Well, because we're not really doing our own software, right? We're basically, all we do is have really good building blocks and then use the best technology that we know for that specific field, right? So for example, freight management, just for one example, right? People need to figure out how to quote rates and how to do that to their customers, right? We would then say, okay, this is the company X that we know is the best, and you should be using those guys, right? And then we combine that with a really good operating system, and we combine that with a really good, trucking dispatch system, and we combine that with a really good accounting software, and so on and so forth, right? Unfortunately, the one-stop shop system doesn't exist today. So what we do is we're helping people. We're almost like a consultant, if you will, on that portion of our business. By heart, we're a traditional freight forwarder, right? We move containers and we do paperwork, right? That's what we do. But we have been going through so many different aspects of the technology that we now I've been through it. We used 50 different CRMs, and we know which ones suck and which ones are good. And we're saying, hey, these ones work for our system, or work for our business, rather. Yeah.
All right. So let's kind of, for some of the people that are just getting into logistics or watching this, trying to get an idea of when we say technology, right? So we have WMS system, which is your warehouse management system. Yeah. You have a TMS system, which is a transportation management system, correct? Mm-hmm. What other systems are there? Like, what other systems am I missing?
So for us, we start the process with, how do you get new clients, right? So for us, it's an outreach. So for us, there's a business development and outreach that we do. Then there's our CRM that we're using. Then there's our transportation, our TMS system. That luckily our system has a lot of stuff already built into it. So, but I think traditionally, people would have one system for exports and one for imports. Some people then separately have to use customs, either on the import or on the export side, right? So now we're already talking 6 systems, right?
That's correct.
And you haven't done the documentation yet. You haven't done a lot of credit yet, if that's a requirement. You haven't provided any documents yet, right? Which some of the TMSs unfortunately don't offer, and you haven't built a customer yet, right? So those are the systems specifically that I'm referring to, and I see it every day. Customers of mine, they're using Excel and Word to create documents, right? I mean, it's unreal, and I can't stress this enough, that business is the software side is so important, because you can streamline your processes. And if you can't streamline your processes, you can't reduce your overhead, right? And at the end of the day, and when I'm saying reducing overhead, I'm not saying let's fire a bunch of people and do what. We use this as a mechanism to grow, right? We doubled our business from last year to this year. And we did that with hiring very little more people, right? So that's what I'm talking about, I'm referring to.
Well, I mean, to me, that's scary. That's scary, because now you're getting into automation to where now you're replacing people's jobs with technology. And that scares me. And obviously you got to understand that that's something that's very difficult for me to understand, because this industry has always been so people intensive. Like, you need to have people. There's a lot of things that change in logistics daily, through the second and the minute. So for me, it's, it's interesting, but, and the one thing is, when you say cost, Does it really reduce costs? Like,
Yes.
I mean, the error, what are the chances of error? Because there's a lot of errors, and an error can cost you hundreds of thousands, right?
Absolutely.
So if a technology has a letter's incorrect or some paperwork is not scanned correctly, it could hold it up. I mean, do you see some of
Yes.
these challenges?
So the way we do it is we call it the fishbowl approach. Okay, so we saying we want our system to do a lot of different things, right? But we are still standing there looking at what's happening. Okay, so we have our team double check whatever automations that we have in place, right? So we don't really see it as replacement of people. We see it as supercharging our people. Okay, so my output, for example, for my documentation crew, went from 50 to 100 bill of ladings to over 200, right, in the past 12 months, right? And the only way we could do this is through technology and through processes. And I think processes are probably more important than the actual software itself, on top of that.
I mean, I could just imagine. Now we're up to the 10 minutes. So just we'll kind of end it with this. So technology is good and there is some bad, but we can obviously come back to this topic. But it's also a very interesting topic because a lot of people just didn't understand. And I'm hopefully that this brings a little bit of attention to it. I mean, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, and I would love to hear from our audience, like what type of questions they specifically have to technology. I would love to hear from them to see how we could, what we can cover and what we can do to help.
Yeah, and now I know we're just going to end this segment part, but just real quick because I get a lot of emails and I don't want to push this topic but I really want to get to know the one company that's really pushing out there. That's really pushing this technology is a Flexport. What is your knowledge of them? And do you believe that they're really as profitable and understanding what's really going on in this market? You don't have to answer it because I know it could be a pretty sharp question, but what is your outtake?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I don't know these guys personally that well, obviously. But obviously we've seen them. We had discussions with them in the past, especially when I was at FMS, because we tried to work with them when they first came out. Obviously, they have a ton of money, right? They raised over $1 billion, right, altogether. And all I can tell you with $1 billion, you can do a lot of damage in the logistics industry, but I think the focus on their automation, I think they focus a lot on customs clearances and stuff like that to automate that. That would probably be the last thing I would automate because our customs clearance takes 30 seconds, right? It's very fast, because our system has all the stuff already preloaded, right? So that would probably be the last thing I would automate. The thing what I would focus on and what I would love Flexport to invest more time and money in is in automation in terms of data entry, because I think that is where majority of the costs are for freight forwarders. And if they really have a really good system that could just take any documents and find out who and have a smart mapping tool, because we're working on something very similar that can grab containers, put them in the system, seal numbers, etc. I think that would be very, very interesting to see. So I would love to see more on that. I don't think they're as big as they claim they are. If you look at the actual shipment stats, I think there were 38 or 39 in terms of imported. But I think they're trying to remove a lot of that data. I think they have a lot of friends in the Silicon Valley area that supports them. But, core customers that use us on a regular basis are kind of smiling at them a little bit, in that regards. But they're very aggressive on the sales side and calling our customers very often, trying to get something done. But I think the level of service is not quite there yet on that front.
Well, here's the thing, too, is we would be more than happy to invite somebody from Flexport to come join our show
we would
and
love to hear.
maybe speak a little bit about it. I mean, I think that we should, give them that fair share. All right. So now we got the next topic. All right. This one's one that is one that I like to push, right? Port congestions. And now you're asking, what does Amazon, what does Target, what does Walmart, and what does IKEA have anything to do with this? One thing that I really want to delve into is the port congestion. right? I still go on Amazon and I'm still seeing that there's still products there. It might take a day longer, but there's products. Now, I have seen, for example, I wanted to buy my son a PS5, right? And they're all sold out everywhere. And they're about what, $4.99, I think it is. If you go over to Amazon, they're selling it like $1,500. That's very upsetting to me. Okay. And now that brings me to them in this part of the segment. Are these guys causing the real port congestion? Are they the ones that are causing the congestion in California? And the only reason I'm saying this, Mario, is you're there. You know, I read a lot of the reports, and I did find one report, and I'll post a link below, that clearly states that these companies are bringing in vessels and breaking the rotations of the vessels that should be coming in. And this is what's causing the delays.
Right.
What do you think, Mario?
So I think it's definitely causing some of the issues. I don't think it's just that. I think that overall, majority of U.S. importers are worried about running out of stock, and they're not trusting the supply chain like they have. So in my eyes, I'm pretty sure that, you know, everyone is ordering a little bit more. And that also scares me, right? I mean, we have some of our customers that are in the hardwood flooring business, for example, right? That everybody says, yeah, we got to order more. We got to order more. We got to order more. Well, if everybody has that much stock on hand, right, it could be quite dangerous once product flow stops to slow down a little bit, right? And I'm worried that it's going to really affect the economy, that a lot of product is going to get dumped. So I think it's not only a specific problem to Amazon, Target, or Walmart. I think it's every importer not believing in the supply chain and just ordering more than they would normally would.
Right, but again, I think that the some of the issues, you know, people are saying that they have. I mean, I think they had the port of Los Angeles loses like $80-something billion in goods for just having cargo sitting. I could be wrong with that number, but with all these vessels sitting out there, but yet I can have a vessel with Amazon stuff and only Amazon, and it's okay to let them in and the other ones wait. So
right.
I don't know how that doesn't cause a problem, but Mario, you know, you've seen this, you know,
yeah.
The big guys, and I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. This is just serious. This is a conversation that people need to understand that, hey, listen, these guys are causing problems. I don't see Amazon. I don't see Walmart. I don't see any of these big box guys screaming. They're not screaming. Right. Walmart said, you know what? I have about 500 containers coming in, I think daily or whatever. And they decided to have a pop-up container yard just for their containers to relieve some of the backlog in the port. Well, if those are just Walmart, why are these other containers? I mean, do you know? I don't know. Maybe you might know, but
yeah, I mean, I've heard a couple of big shippers do the same thing, right? And I think it was Target that chartered an entire vessel themselves as well, right? Which is, to be honest, people have always done that, just not on the container side, right? They normally did that on the breakbulk side, right? A lot of the big grains and stuff like that, they would do it all the time. And I think these big companies are just saying, hey, our regular supply chain is not working. We need to do something because we don't get the space that we require for our product, you know? And you know, with freight rates being as expensive as they are, I think now it just opened that door. I don't foresee that happening long term, especially once freight rates are normalizing themselves a little bit, you know, but who knows when that's going to happen.
Yeah. And I'd love to talk about that, you know, more through these platforms, because the rates of oceans consistently changing. I believe, though, that they are starting to, we'll just call it a correction, but a correction to what the new norm will be. So, but going back to those guys. So if that's happening at the port of Los Angeles, I mean, do you know of any other ports that are incredibly backed up, or that you know of that are having these issues because of this? Because all I read is that it's the port of Los Angeles where these big mega vessels, and not only that, Mario, But one thing that I'm seeing more, like you said,
Mhm.
the first charter I saw was Home Depot, because to get wood over here or to do a repair in your home was, a few months ago, 10 times the cost.
Right.
So
Right.
I do remember that they led the way. I think it was Home Depot that led the way, but Walmart was always doing it. But do you think that's going to change now? A lot of what's going on with the way the forwarder works with containers.
Yeah, well, I think the big boys were never really using freight forwarders anyways, right? So at least for me, it's many times the smaller guys that really, and the last thing that I read is that about 50% of the volumes coming on the import side are freight forwarder driven, which was actually a little bit of an increase over last year. So I think overall the share of freight forwarders is bigger now because people are just looking at any avenue to get more space, right? So I think it's actually a good trend for freight forwarders to have a tight market like it is now. Generally speaking, you should make more money and get more business right now. You shouldn't be struggling. And if you do, there's something wrong. Maybe because you couldn't get space. But there's a whole other segment on that. So I think the big boys are going to continue doing that. I think they will always protect their own supply chain. I think the small customers, the small shippers, obviously, they're always kind of have to do it on a freight forwarding side. And it's funny because some of my smaller customers have asked me in the past and saying, "Hey, why don't we do a slot charter? Why don't we do a whole vessel? And can you just get 30 or 40 customers of yours come all together?" And I'm like, wow, that would be a pretty cool thing to do, so.
Mario, listen, be careful what you wish for, because between you and I, that's not far-fetched.
No,
I think
absolutely. So yeah,
that
I want people to drop it in the comment section if they think it's a great idea, because I mean, the article that I read about 2 years ago said, a carrier was hoping to make $4,000 on a round trip, right? So I mean, today you're about 10 times, well, not 10 times, but you're about 5 times that, so.
All right, well, there's our 10 minutes. I mean, I love the content. I think it's great. And I think the 10 minutes are great as well. Again, so if anybody who's watching, any of the listeners, please comment below. Please send us questions that you would like to hear. We'd love to discuss them. All right, Mario, now let's get to the real big one. Okay, the real big one. And now this is something where I have many people disagreeing with me. Many disagree with me. And I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but I follow the numbers and I follow the trends, right?
Yes.
Trends always tend to repeat themselves. So the next one is it the end of the mid-size small forwarder? My answer is yes. Now, when I say at the end of it, I'm not referring to ones that are maybe a niche, right? Like a BDP that, their niche was their chemicals, or some of these other small ones, a CFI, which would be perishables. But the mid-size forwarder, I think days are counted, or days are numbered. I really do. And it's a really sad thing. And I think that the only way I believe that some of these are going to really survive is either a consolidation, or acquisition. I don't see, because I see companies like an AIT that's, huge. You have their perishable division that they're very well known for is booming. Again, let's go back to Seco with Brian and them. Those guys, their e-commerce, their fulfillment. Those guys are really they're really digging everything up. And I really think that it's hindering a lot of these small to mid-sized forwarders. And not only that, but what the steamship lines are now doing, where they are now trying to cut out NVOs and freight forwarders from even booking with them. They'd have to literally, or contracts, they would have to book through their platform, is just one step further of taking out the small guy. What do you think?
Right. I disagree. And this is a very emotional subject for me, because obviously, my dad was a small freight forwarder, I always believe that the freight forwarders are unique the way they handle their relationship with their clients. And they know we go beyond and beyond to do anything, make the impossible happen, And I think the big people simply don't give you that type of service. I know you spoke many times about the carriers trying to compete with the forwarders. I agree with that part. I agree with the big boys like a Kuehne Nagel, a Panalpina, and so on, right? At DHL, right? Yes, the carriers trying to compete with those guys. The small guy that has 5 employees, that knows every single customer of theirs, that knows exactly what needs to happen to get the product delivered and get them space and provide the services, I wholeheartedly disagree with you that those guys are not going anywhere. However, they got to be on top and in front when it comes to technology and about new trends. I think many freight forwarders die because they're content where they are. They lose a couple customers. They don't have the right sales approaches. And this is when small and mid-sized freight forwarders are in trouble, right? And or when it's a highly niche freight forwarder and something is happening to that niche, right? That's the only 2 times when I really see freight forwarders disappearing or something happening to them.
Man, Mario, I don't know. It's hard to chew, man. I'm a realist. You know, these carriers are going straight for the jugular. You know, them saying, you know, we want to become the one-stop shop. A lot of the things that we sell as a forwarder, or when we sold forward, or when I sold forwarding, was always that one-stop shop. But these carriers are consistently pushing, and it's
Right.
They're not only pushing, but they're leading. And keep in mind that, you know, 80% of the goods are of water or ocean transportation and goods is moved by the top 10 carriers.
Right.
That's a problem. And Maersk is leading the way. I have a big problem with it. You know, I have a lot of friends that are in this industry that are nervous. I see Bill Paul, for example. He speaks about, you know, finding people to come back into the industry to work. It's impossible.
Right.
And these carriers and it's because these carriers, Mario, are making it more and more difficult. When I speak to them, they're like, "Oh my God, the container's coming tomorrow. Let's schedule everything for the container to get picked up tomorrow." Then all of a sudden, the steamship line can say, "The vessel's not there yet. 2 more days." That causes enormous problems, Mario, and they're doing it on purpose, I believe. Okay, and if these vessels were getting there on time, and not these Amazons and these big guys that get special privileges to go to the port to get called to berth before these other ones that had been waiting for weeks and weeks, is just a step closer to stepping on. Now, I believe that the ones in which you're absolutely correct, the forwarders that have that technology like yourself are definitely going to survive, because you could definitely go with the flow. But these some of these mid to small size forwarders, Mario, I think the forwarding industry hit pause while the rest of the world went. And now we're trying to catch up. And that's why you have this huge, huge flock of these IT guys that know nothing about transportation.
Right.
Absolutely nothing, that have friends with a lot of money. And like you said, billions of dollars. And the worst thing about it is you don't know if they're profitable because everything's hidden, everything's blocked, everything's restricted. So, but I just don't know, Mario, man. It is heartbreaking. But I mean, what would be? How do you think, if I was a small forwarder, what do you think I would feel like if I don't have now the buying power that I used to have? How do I compete?
I actually think that the buying power today from a small forwarder is bigger than it ever has been. And here's why.
Wow.
I think that today the carriers are treating most of their customers the same, right? Which for a small forwarder is an advantage.
You're
because let's say, you know, the Kuehne Nagels of the world and the Panalpinas of the world and the DHLs of the world, right? They're getting very similar pricing to what we're getting today, right? And mainly it's because people are pushing the online thing, you know. Hapag, for example, we move a lot of paper, right? Maersk and Hapag saying we no longer quote paper rates. So my big competitors, like FMS, one of my old companies I used to work for, which is the biggest commodity freight forwarder in the world, right? They get super rates, right? With Maersk, I get the same rate now than they did.
Yeah,
you know,
true.
And it's because the carrier make you go online with what they think the commodities that they don't really want to handle, you know? So this is why I think today is one of the best days to compete for that, you know? And I think a network of small agents can do a lot of damage. especially when vessel space is tight. I think they can do a lot of damage.
Mario, one thing I hate to do is tell people that they're right.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say you're right, but I will say you're partially right. And you're getting me to believe it because you do make some really big points. But I just feel that the industry is eventually going to crunch. And the reason I say that is because if these carriers are going to be actually coming in and doing full logistics, I think that a lot of these people that we have problems placing in forwarders are going to go to the carrier, and we're going to lose that. And
the last thing I would probably want to say on that is that I just don't foresee. I mean, carriers don't have the greatest customer service to begin with, right?
True that.
And freight forwarding is such a service-based business. So the only thing I could see is that I don't truly believe that the carriers are made to compete with a forwarder when it comes to service. Because many times carriers will just throw up their hands and saying, it is what it is. This is the best thing I can do. Where a good freight forwarder will always find a solution that works for the customer.
Agreed. And guess what? That's the 30 minutes. Excellent topics. So Mario, I think that hopefully we've been able to get enough information to people now, at least on some things that are going on in the market. Next week, let's find out. What do you think? If you guys want to know what other things we can discuss, what topics, it'd be great. What do you think, Mario? What kind of topics do you want to think, or what do you want to talk about next week?
I would really like to hear from our audience on what they think we should talk about next, right? But I think we should focus about, talk more about scaling and what to do. It's right now, it's the end of the year, right? This is when we do all our forecasting and all our goal setting and all that kind of stuff. I think we should talk a little bit about, how does forecasting and goal setting look like for a freight forwarder? Because I guarantee you 90% of people out there don't do it, and some magical things can happen if you put a lot of thought into how you're going to grow. Because if you don't grow, you're dying.
I agree. All right. Well, that concludes our session. So thank you guys all for watching, and hopefully we will see you on the next live stream. Everyone take care and be well.